viewers, we welcome you all for this lecture series on gender and health. We are very happy to present this series to you because we do not have much information or much literature available on this topic. Yes, there are information available, but we need to understand both the gender and health from culture perspective because the variable culture, it influences both health and gender in a much more deeper, detailed, comprehensive way. So health, you need to understand against the cultural background of that particular community. Likewise, gender also we need to understand from that particular cultural background. And again, it differs from culture to culture, country to country, and a lot of differences in terms of socioeconomic strata and geographical differences are also there, and also the government, the policy, their contribution, their support. All these things are important variables which influence both gender and health. Though gender and health are interchangeably influencing each other, mutually influencing each other. The concept as such, gender is a social construct. How different culture they consider manhood or womanhood as such, and they are trying to differentiate them based on their own understanding of the culture or the practice which are there in the particular community or in the society. Other hand, sex that is determined biologically, being a male or female or even transgender. Okay, so these are some of the main core differences between gender and sex. So gender and sex, they are part and parcel of the health components. The health is multifactorial concept. Okay, so if we talk about gender and health, so women and men, they are biologically and socially vulnerable to certain illnesses. So it affects them in different rates with different severity. They have different patterns of health and as well as ill health. It's mainly because of their differences in their biological system, the reproductive functions of women, and also the lifestyle of both men and women, and their roles, gender roles, like being men and being women, how they perform their roles within that cultural framework. So gender affects the health of both men and women, but there is a special emphasis on the consequences of discrimination against women that is existing in our society. Of course, in every culture, okay, there are many strong barriers, including poverty, unequal power relationship between men and women, a lack of education, and also lack of health services, public health services, which prevent a million of women around the world from having access to healthcare, which influences their health both positively and negatively. Also, women live longer than men. They suffer greater burden because of unhealthy life years. Okay, it's mainly because of certain incident and prevalence of diseases among women, such as cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and mental health problems. It affects both men and women differently, but some diseases are related to birth and reproductive organs like endometriosis, cervical cancer, breast cancer, which affect women exclusively. There are exclusive mental health diseases where women are more prone to get affected. And again, there are differences mean, men and women in terms of the healthcare services utilized by them. Women are more likely to experience depression and stress linked to their experience of inequality and discrimination, both in their family environment and as well as work environment. So even experiencing some diseases like arthritis and osteoporosis, it is also because of the abuse they experience in their environment. Women, they have advantage of disease-resistant biology, mainly because they have better circulatory system in terms of menstruation and menopause. Because of the better circulatory system, they have advantage to get over from the diseases in a much better way compared to men. The prognosis for women, because they have better circulatory system, it is comparatively better for them. But all these things are also influenced by those variables, extraneous variables we need to understand. The low socio-economic status or the social discrimination. Even though they have better advantages in terms of certain diseases because of the biological makeup, again, that has been lowered by discriminatory variables like inhuman treatment or lower socio-economic status for women. And other examples I would like to quote, sometimes women, they're not able to get the better health care in the community because of the travel limitation that they have to a clinic. Of course, now we have better transport system in southern states, but again, if you go to northern states, this is an impediment and it's a binding factor. They are not able to have access to the health care. For a teenage boy, for many teenage boys, the chances for them to meet with an accident are more because if you are a boy, then you need to be bold, then you need to be risk-taking. These are all some of the special concepts they are experiencing. The married women, they contract HIV/AIDS more because of the societal standards, which encourages the husband's promiscuity while simultaneously preventing her from insisting on condom usage. And if many of you who are watching, high risk group more than anybody else in HIV/AIDS. Women housewives are more prone to HIV/AIDS. Likewise, if you see lung cancer, men are more prone to it because of their smoking behavior, because that shows their masculinity and manliness. Worldwide, the mental disorders of childhood are generally more prevalent in boys. But in later period of life, women are more likely to harbor and suffer poor mental health because of the very social discrimination and as well as the social status, the lowest social status, where they are pushed to in different communities and culture. So with this few words, it's a wonderful lecture waiting from Jesse Esther. So over to Jesse Esther. In conclusion, we will sum up with more information. So over to Jesse Esther. Thank you and have a wonderful and informative listening. Over to Jesse. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Today I'll be talking about community health issues related to gender. So we all of us know the definition of health, right? So according to World Health Organization, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely absence of any disease or infirmity. Now, what is gender? gender refers to those characteristics and roles of men and women. There is a difference between sex and gender. Sex is the biological difference between males and females, while gender is based on the socially constructed characters. Transgender. It is an umbrella term for a diverse group of people, such as a trans female, trans male, and many others. Trans female is a person who was assigned male at birth, but the gender identity of the person is female. Trans male is a person who was identified female at birth, but the gender identity of the person is male. Let's go to the diseases. The first one is the diseases associated with heart diseases. Let's start from the vascular disease. We all know we have vascular system in our body. It is a network of blood vessels. When I say blood vessels, it includes arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are tube-like structures, and they carry oxygenated blood and nutrients. They transport nutrients and oxygenated blood to cells in different parts of the body. And veins, on the other hand, they carry blood and waste from the body to the heart. Capillaries are tube-like structures that connect arteries and veins. Vascular disease is an abnormal condition of the blood vessels, and some of the common vascular diseases are CAD, that is coronary artery disease, blood clot in veins, and then atherosclerosis, etc. Let's see what coronary artery disease is. Arteries, like I was discussing before, they carry oxygenated blood and nutrients. When there is narrowing down of arteries, and if there is any blockage in the artery, that condition is known as coronary artery disease. And this is caused due to the buildup of fat and cholesterol in the walls of the arteries. These unwanted cholesterol and fat, they go and stick up to the walls of the arteries, narrowing the arteries and sometimes even causing blockage. So when there is a blockage in the artery, the blood flow is restricted. This condition, we call it coronary artery disease. The next one is arrhythmia. Arrhythmia is irregular or abnormal heartbeat. In normal people, heart beats 60 to 100 times per minute. But in some people, it gets out of rhythm. So when that happens, heartbeat becomes abnormal. I mean, there is uneven heartbeat. Which might lead to changes in the heart rate, and which might cause very slow heart rate or very fast heart rate. Cardiomyopathy. Cardiomyopathy is a disease of the heart muscle. The heart muscle, when it thickens, heart muscle thickens. In this condition, heart muscle thickens, and when the muscle thickens, it makes it very difficult for the heart to pump blood. When the heart is not able to pump blood properly, this can lead to heart failure, and this is also a hereditary disease. The next one is pericardial disease. Our heart is surrounded by a sac called pericardium, and it has many layers. Inflammation is swelling of any one of the layers, or one or more of the layers. That condition, we call it pericardial disease. And here we see coronary microvascular disease. Coronary microvascular disease and broken heart syndrome affect women more than they affect men. Coronary microvascular disease is, we all have arteries, and there are small blood vessels that branch off from the main arteries. So when there is a narrowing, when there is a blockage in those blood vessels, or when there is the blood vessels are narrowed down, that condition is known as coronary micro. Like arteries, they also carry oxygenated blood and nutrients. Broken heart syndrome. Broken heart syndrome is mainly caused due to emotional stress. It is also known as stress-induced cardiomyopathy. Here, the person experiences the symptoms of heart attack, but it is not a heart attack. It is a temporary condition. Psychological distress actually triggers the sudden weakness in the heart muscle. When that happens, a person might experience chest pain, shortness of breath, and all the symptoms of heart attack are seen here. But it is not a heart attack. It is only a temporary condition. Peripheral heart disease is those arteries that are seen in our legs and stomach, head, and arms. When there is a problem in those arteries, like narrowing down of the arteries or blockage in that arteries, that condition is known as peripheral artery disease. More women are prone to heart disease than men. The symptoms are different in men and women. Men experience chest discomfort, they experience nausea, vomiting, and squeezing pain in the center of their chest. And that pain might radiate to their shoulders, neck, arms, especially their left arm. The main factor that triggers heart attack in men is physical exertion, doing physical, very heavy exercises, and then lifting very heavy weights, and also running. These are all the factors that can that can trigger heart attack in men. Women is emotional emotional stress. Women experience very mild symptoms, like they experience nausea, vomiting, and sometimes fainting, but then shortness of breath is seen. What is shortness of breath? The it We find it difficult, the person find it difficult to get the hair fully into the lungs. When that happens, shortness of breath is seen, and pain in the jaws are all seen, and sometimes flu like symptoms are also seen. Now, like I was saying, women are at high risk of heart disease. Why? There are different reasons. I haven't included in the slide. I'm just going to say it. Maybe later I'll include it and send it to you. The first reason is diabetes. It is said that a person with diabetes, when a woman has diabetes, it affects her so much. It increases the risk of heart attack in her, and it also increases the risk of silent heart attack in women. Why? What is silent heart attack? The woman experiences very subtle symptoms, like they have very mild chest pain. Sometimes they mistake it for indigestion also. So they experience subtle symptoms. And the reason number two is mental stress and depression. Mental stress and depression are common in men and women, but it affects a women's heart more than it affects men's heart. Why? Because of different reasons. We know what a person with depression does, right? We know what depression is, what are the symptoms of depression. When a person is depressed, they find it very difficult to maintain a healthy lifestyle. When a person cannot maintain a healthy lifestyle, it leads to different complications. It can cause different diseases in them. When I say healthy lifestyle, it includes proper intake of food, getting proper sleep, and this is all absent. It might lead to heart attack and other diseases also. Third, smoking. Smoking can make the women more prone to heart disease. Inactivity, not doing no physical activity. When there is no proper physical activity, you see, we all have this fat and cholesterol in our body. If it is not burned properly, these cholesterol and unwanted fat particles, as I was telling, it goes and sticks to the walls of the arteries, leading to heart failure. And heart failure can lead to cardiac arrest and sometimes heart attack also. Menopause. So all women, we have this hormone known as estrogen, right? It is a reproductive hormone. Usually in a woman's body, when the level of estrogen is high, the level of good cholesterol is also high, but the level of bad cholesterol is maintained low. But after menopause, the level of estrogen goes down. When that goes down, the level of good cholesterol also goes down, but the level of bad cholesterol increases. Again, when cholesterol level increases, bad cholesterol level increases, it can go and build up in the walls of the arteries, leading to heart attack. And the last one is high blood pressure. When there is high blood pressure and high diabetes, especially during pregnancy, high blood pressure during pregnancy is known as preeclampsia. So that can also increase the risk of heart attack in women. The next one is stroke. So heart pumps blood, and the blood is circulated to different parts of our body, and this happens every time, every second, every minute. But sometimes when the blood doesn't reach our brain, when there is restricted blood flow, or when the blood flow to the brain is interrupted, the brain, we all have tissues in our brain, right? They do not get sufficient oxygen and nutrients. When they don't get sufficient oxygen and nutrients, they die. Brain tissues die within matter of few minutes. So when that happens, we call that condition is known as stroke. Stroke is a medical condition. A person with stroke, they find it difficult to walk, to move, and they find difficult understanding, and there can also be paralysis of face, arms, legs, etc. So it has a greater effect on women. Why? Because of the following reasons. Like I was telling, preeclampsia is a condition where the women in which women has high blood pressure during pregnancy. So that doubles the risk of stroke and heart attack in women. Oral contraceptive pills, birth control pills. If a woman has high blood pressure, she is not supposed to take birth control pills, because a woman with high blood pressure, if she takes birth control pills, that can increase the risk of stroke, that can cause stroke in women. And also smoking, smoking while being on birth control pills also increases the risk of stroke. The last one is atrial fibrillation. Atrial fibrillation is irregular or rapid heart rate. So when there is rapid or irregular heart rate, blood flow is not proper. You see, the heart doesn't pump blood properly. When that happens, blood does not reach brain, leading to stroke. The next one is, age specific strokes are higher in men, but it kills more women because of the reasons I discussed. Can someone tell me the symptoms of stroke? You need not be specific to men or women, just the common symptoms that you know.
Florence Rajkumari, please. Florence.
Florence, are you there? I think she's not here, sir.
Yasmin.
Sir, numbness, dizziness.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Flora, I can hear you.
Oh, sorry, was somebody speaking?
Yeah. I asked to tell the symptoms of stroke.
Stroke, symptoms of stroke, they have difficulty in movement of their body, and they have, like, sometimes they even get paralyzed because of
Okay, thank you, Flo. So we see the first 5 symptoms are common in men and women. Like they experience weakness in their arms, like I was saying, speech difficulty and vision problems, trouble walking and lack of coordination, headache without any cause. How do we instantly check if a person is having stroke? See, of course, tests are taken, but if you have to check immediately, what does the doctor does? What does the doctor do? If you take a patient who has stopped, who is not able to walk or not able to speak, does anyone know what the doctor does immediately? Anyone? Okay, so instantly what the doctor does is he asks the patient to bite the patient's teeth, like he asks them to make eats, say cheese or something. So if they are able to do that, that means that they might not have stroke. And they ask them to raise their hands and sometimes legs. They check if they are able to respond, understand what they are saying. And third, they move their fingers from right to left or left to right, and they check if they are able, check the eye coordination. If any of the 3 is absent, if all the 3 is also, are absent, then it is definitely stroke. In women, let's come back to the symptoms. In women, the last 4 symptoms are seen only in women. Like they have cognitive problems like disorientation, confusion, and they have difficulty remembering stuffs, and they experience general weakness, nausea, vomiting, and fatigue. The next one is malaria. So we know what malaria is, right? We've been reading it from our school, from high secondary or high school, I'm not sure. Okay, malaria is a vector-borne disease, and it is caused by a protozoan known as Plasmodium. There are different species of Plasmodium. Before I go into it, malaria is one of the major health concerns in the world, right? And World Health Organization has identified excuse me, 91 countries that are at high risk of malaria, and there are two countries that are in which malaria is very common. One is India, and the other one is the sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa is Nigeria and Republic of Congo and Uganda. And upon given equal exposure, men and women are equally vulnerable, but pregnant women are more vulnerable when compared to the others. Like I was saying, there are different species of malaria, but different species of Plasmodium. But Plasmodium falciparum and Plasmodium vivax are the most dangerous species. Okay, this Plasmodium falciparum causes dangerous malaria known as falciparum malaria in human beings. So how is this protozoan, how is this infection transmitted? It is transmitted through mosquitoes, female Anopheles mosquito. So when a pregnant woman has low immunity, and the mosquito bites her, the female Anopheles mosquito bites her, that infection is transmitted. And if it is Plasmodium falciparum, it is going to cause the dangerous form of malaria, falciparum malaria. So what happens when the protozoan enters the body of the human being? It multiplies rapidly in the blood, and that might lead to blood loss. And that blood loss, we call it anemia. So when all of us know, right? Placenta connects a mother and the fetus, and only through placenta oxygen is supplied to the baby and nutrients is supplied to the baby. But when the placenta is infected with the when malaria has spread to placenta, the red cells in the placenta, they restrict the oxygen exchange and nutrient exchange between the women and the baby. And as a result, it leads to a lot of complications. The first one is intrauterine growth retardation. That is unborn baby. The baby in the fetus, it is smaller than it should be. Why? Because the nutrient is not properly supplied to the baby, and it might sometimes lead to abortion. Stillbirth is death before delivery or during delivery. When it is before delivery, it is known as miscarriage. This is all about malaria. Now next disease or next infection is tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a bacterial infection, and it is caused by a bacteria known as Mycobacterium tuberculosis. Right? See here, incidence and prevalence is higher in men. Why? Because of smoking, the works they do, and also because of the intravenous drug use. While the death rate is higher in women. Why? Because of diabetes. Diabetes is one of the important reasons, and malnutrition, and also rising tobacco use among women. Women and girls account for over 1 million cases of tuberculosis in India each year. This is also a serious problem in our country, in India. It is also said that it is a third major killer among females between 15 to 44 years of age in the worldwide. And it is also fifth leading cause of death among women in the country. The next is HIV/AIDS. Can anyone unmute yourself and tell me the expansion of HIV and AIDS?
Human
Yes, human.
immunodeficiency. Okay.
Human. Can you repeat? Can you come again?
Human human immunodeficiency virus,
Okay.
HIV, and AIDS is acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
Okay. Thank you. Flora, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Flo. Like she was saying, HIV is human immunodeficiency virus, and AIDS is the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. It is a viral infection, and it is caused by a virus called retrovirus, right? And it affects the body cells that actually fight against infections. So it weakens the immune system of our body. And also, like it is given here, women account for more than half the number of people living with HIV. Why are women and girls are infected with HIV? Why are they prone to this infection? Because of different reasons. The first one is they are restricted of their sexual autonomy. See, the right of a woman to determine when, where, how, I mean, when, where, and with whom, and what circumstance to have sex is totally, denied. That is one reason. The number two is lack of access to education. A study was conducted, and it concluded that the HIV spread was very less among educated women, while it was high among uneducated women. Why? Because of the lack of awareness. See, they might know what HIV is, they might know what AIDS is, they might have heard about it, but they lack knowledge about the disease. When they have no knowledge, they do not know what are the preventive measures to be taken, how to practice safe sex. All of it is totally absent. And also, another reason is because of child marriage. No, poverty. Because of poverty, girls are forced to to marry at a very early age. So that is also one of the reasons. And women are more likely than men to develop bacterial pneumonia and herpes infection, while men, they develop Kaposi's sarcoma. Kaposi's sarcoma is a cancer, and it affects people with immune deficiency, especially people with HIV and AIDS. The next one is genetic disease. What is genetic disease? Any change in the DNA, or any mutation in DNA, that causes genetic disease. So before I explain the diseases, I'm going to start off with the basics. Only if we know the basics, we can understand the disease. You see, all human beings, we have 23 pairs of chromosomes, right? The last pair of chromosome, that is a 23rd pair of chromosome, is known as sex chromosome. A woman, she normally has two X chromosomes, right? And in men, they have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. So women have XX chromosome, men have XY chromosome. I'm sure all of you are clear with this. What is Klinefelter syndrome? As I was saying, a man is supposed to have one X chromosome and one Y chromosome. But a person with this syndrome, the boy, is born with one extra X chromosome, which means that instead of having XY chromosome, the person has XXY chromosomes, two X chromosomes and one Y chromosome. So this can lead to different complications, like they have very low testosterone level. Testosterone is again a hormone that stimulates sperm production. Since the level of testosterone is less, the sperm is also present in a very little amount, or sometimes it is not present at all. There is no sperm at all in the body. And we can also see the person has very reduced muscle mass, and also very reduced facial hair and body hair. The next condition is hemophilia, and Klinefelter syndrome, it affects only men. The next one is hemophilia. What comes to your mind when I say hemo? What is hemo?
Blood.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. So hemo means blood. So this is something related to blood. And hemophilia is seen in women also, but then it is very, very common among men. Even though it is a rare disease, it is commonly seen among men. Hemophilia, like I was saying, hemo means blood. And here what happens, the body is not able to, the person, it affects more than males, and it is a rare disorder in which the blood doesn't clot. When blood doesn't clot, what happens? A person meets with an accident, if there is any injury, the blood, it keeps oozing out, and blood doesn't clot, it keeps oozing out, and this can lead to excess bleeding. And the next one is color blindness. See, color blindness, it can be hereditary, and also it can be caused due to the deficiency of vitamin A. And this again is common in men. The color blindness, as the name suggests, the person is unable to see colors. The next one is Fragile X syndrome. It is nothing but intellectual disability. And here also it affects 1 in 4,000 men, and while it affects 1 in 8,000 women. Next, we are going to the women's genetic diseases. The first one is Turner syndrome. So before I tell what Turner syndrome is, I want any one of you to unmute yourself and tell me what Klinefelter syndrome is. Because if you had understood that easy, that if you are clear with this, you can understand this easily. Can anyone tell me what Klinefelter syndrome is? I just explained. Ruth, are you there? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Ruth, are you there?
Yeah.
Can anyone tell me what is Klinefelter syndrome?
Beulah, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can you?
Like instead of having an X and Y chromosome, they have an extra Y chromosome, which causes less
No,
testosterone.
they have an extra X chromosome, not Y.
Yeah, I mean X and Y is normally there in men. They have an extra X chromosome.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Beulah. So, like boys, they are born with extra X chromosome. In women with Turner syndrome, they are born with only X chromosome. Instead of having XX, they are supposed to have XX chromosome in their 23rd pair, right? But instead of that, they have only one X chromosome. And that can also lead to a lot of medical and developmental problems. Like, they have very short growth and delayed puberty and very weak ovaries, failure of ovaries, and sometimes even heart defects. The last one is Rett syndrome. Rett syndrome is present by birth, and it is not seen until 18 months of age. The baby looks very normal, no abnormality is seen, but only after 6 to 18 months, only after 18 months, the symptoms become apparent. The disease, the syndrome becomes apparent, and this actually affects the brain development of the girl. So when brain development is affected, what happens? There is no proper growth, and they have very small head size, and they have difficulty in walking. Mental health, we're going to be looking at this.
Jesse,
Yes.
before you move on, can you just do like a repetition of those three syndromes, please? Like just in short.
You want me to repeat the syndromes?
Yeah, just in short, can you just repeat
Yeah, sure,
the
Flora.
three syndromes?
Three
Thank you.
syndromes, I mean both men and women.
Yes, all the three syndromes. Just in short.
Okay. The first is Klinefelter syndrome. A boy is born with an extra X chromosome. Hemophilia is a blood clot, and color blindness is the person is not able to see colors. Fragile X syndrome is intellectual disability. Turner syndrome is girl is born with only one X chromosome instead of two. She should have two X chromosomes, but she has only one X chromosome. And Rett syndrome is it affects the brain development of the girl. Is it okay, Flo? Can I proceed? Can
Yes,
I
thank
continue?
you, Jess.
No problem. For mental health, we're going to be looking at it in four different stages of human development. The first one is childhood. So conduct disorders are common in boys. If I'm not wrong, I think Renu was dealing with conduct disorders, right? But can anyone tell me what conduct disorder is? Tas? Tasman, are you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Tas.
Where there is like, they misbehave more. They don't. it's harder to control them than it is for girls. But it happens repetitively and consistently, and
Oh,
they have a difficulty respecting the rights of others.
okay. Thank you, Tess. Yes, like she was saying, they have behavioral and emotional problems. Like they have aggressive behavior, deceitful behavior, like lying. They do it all the time. So that conduct disorders are very common among boys. It is also seen in girls, but it is common among boys. And in adulthood, anger and high risk behaviors are common among boys, while depression and suicidal ideation attempts and eating disorders are common among girls. In adulthood, depression and anxiety is common among women, and substance abuse and antisocial behavior are common among men. And in old age, you see depression, other mental health problems, and Alzheimer's are very common among women. It is also seen in men, but is very, very commonly seen among women. Okay. I want any one of you to read this for me. Can anyone please read this? Asher?
Yes. Um, the role of gender in mental health. Men.
Yeah. Yes.
So 4x is 4 times as many men die from suicide compared to women. 2 times as likely that girls to be diagnosed with ADHD due in
Oh,
childhood.
one sec, Asher. I'm sorry to interrupt. ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They have difficulty paying attention and listening to others. Yes. You can continue, Asher. So,
Half% of the men will develop alcohol dependence. Men with bipolar disorder are more likely to drug abuse. 4 times more men are 4 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with autism. White men over 85 years of age have the highest suicide rate of any demographic in the US.
the role of gender in mental health in women also.
Women.
Can you read it also?
So women are 2 times more likely than men to experience I mean, past
Post-traumatic disorder.
post-traumatic disorder. Mm,
Anorexia is eating disorder, and
bulimia.
bulimia is obsession. Having obsession over the desire to reduce weight. That is bulimia. Okay, you can
Bulimia
continue, Asha.
are 3 times more common in women than men. Women are 2 times more women attempt suicide than men. Women have consistently higher rates of anxiety disorder than men. 1/12 women will develop alcohol dependency during their
Lives.
life, and 2 times as likely as men to develop depression.
Thank you, Asher. Let's go to the next slide. What are the different ways that gender affects health? The first one is access to resource and opportunities. Like when I was talking about HIV, I was telling how education plays an important role, right? And the same way, a study was conducted in Vietnam, and they found out that women, the disease, the mortality rate is very less among educated women, but it is very high among non-educated, uneducated women. Why? As I was telling, because of the lack of awareness, they do not have knowledge about the disease. That can be a reason. And also, the next one is access to resources like time, money. In most of the households, you see, especially in poverty-stricken households, these women, they lack money. The men might be alcoholic. They go to work, but they do not give money to their wives. So that being the case, and sometimes even the women will work, but then the money she gives, all the money she earns to her husband. So she doesn't have money. When she has problems, when she develops any health problems, and she cannot go to the hospital because of the lack of money, sometimes because of the lack of time. Decision making in the household. we are living in a male dominating society, right? In many households, women are not given the right to make decisions of their own. It might not be the case in most of our homes, but it still happens, especially in India. They'll have to depend on their husbands for anything. They'll have to take permission before they do anything from their husbands. So a study was again conducted in Cambodia, and they found out that women who had to take permission, for anything and everything from their husbands, they thought they wanted to take a HIV test, but they didn't take HIV test. Why? It might be because they didn't want want to ask their husband in the first place. And number two, if the husband doesn't permits them, they cannot go to the hospital. Okay, so those women who had to take permission, who were dependent on their husband, who were not given the right to make decisions, they did not take HIV test at all. So if the test is not taken, the problem cannot be detected. They might be positive, they might be negative. If they are positive, only if the test is taken, the problem will be detected. So without knowing the problem, no solution can be given, right? So decision making in the household also plays an important role. Health seeking behavior, for example, masculinity is usually associated with not showing emotions, not being sad, not crying, right? So when a man develops mental health problems, he doesn't access help. He doesn't go to a doctor. He doesn't go to a physician, a psychiatrist. Why? Because all his life he's been taught that showing, hiding emotions, not crying and not being sad, and walking as if nothing has happened with a smile on his face, nothing is wrong. It is all associated with masculinity. He's been taught like that. And because of that, even if he develops any serious health problems, in many cases, they do not go access help from doctors. They do not go to doctors. They do not access healthcare. Access to health information in many countries, reproductive health awareness, or reproductive health education or awareness, it is considered taboo for unmarried women, and also inappropriate for unmarried men. Harmful traditional practices. How many of you have heard about FGM, female genital mutilation? How many of you know what female genital mutilation is? Does anyone know what FGM is? Can you please unmute yourself and tell me? Yes, Flora, you raised your hand.
Female genital mutilation is where the genitalia of the woman is either cut or stitched up so that she will not have any feelings.
Yes.
It is a way to control women. It is believed that their feelings, their sexual desires can destroy the society, and it can overpower patriarchy.
Oh, yes, Flora, thank you. Like Flora was telling, it is partial or total removal of the female genitalia. What is genitalia? Female reproductive organ. This is also known as female circumcision. You see, this does not benefit the girl in any way. It only causes her pain, but because of the traditional practices, they keep doing it. Even in this modern society, it is highly prevalent in African countries, and also in some parts of Asia, and also in the Middle East. The last one is harmful. Before I go to harmful social expectation, I would like to bring up this mental health problems in India. We were discussing about mental health problems. We even had it for our first CA. And we saw how, in India, because of the lack of awareness, because of the lack of education, we can say, how people with mental illness, they are treated. Instead of they have to be taken to the psychiatrist, but instead of taking them to the psychiatrist, because these people believe that it is because of an evil possession, they take these people to the priests. Okay, and priest does everything he can, and he says something to do this and that, and as a result, this person with mental illness, it might be depression or it might be schizophrenia, they are confined in a place for a very long time. They are chained for a very long time, and this doesn't make anything better. It only the illness gets worsens. The illness worsens every day by day. So that is one of the harmful, culture, we can say culture, or because of the lack of awareness, or because of the traditional practice, because of the superstitions, etc. Harmful social expectation, again, example, it is considered masculine to smoke. Okay, because of it, the smoking rates among men are are higher among men. Because why? A lot of times they think that it is masculine to smoke, not telling that it is only the reason. It is only a reason for the increasing rate, smoking rate among men. It can also be because of peer pressure, but because of this ideology that masculine, it is masculine to smoke, many men get into smoking. That is one reason. Now let's look at the transgender health issues. Transgender are at higher risk for different health problems. Why? Because of two main reasons. One is access to healthcare, and the other one is fear of discrimination. Access to healthcare. It is not very easy for a transgender to find a doctor who knows how to treat a transgender. That is point number one. The next one is some physicians, some doctors, they do not agree to treat the transgenders. Number two, and again, fear of discrimination. So you see, transgender people are discriminated at different levels in society. They face social exclusion, and because of that, also they do not even try to go to a hospital, even if they have any problems, because of the fear of being discriminated, and they don't access healthcare. And because of the social exclusion, because they are discriminated, they are not given equal status in a society. They also face a lot of mental health issues, like depression is very common among transgender, and suicidal risk is very high among the transgender people. And some of the other health issues, like I'm sure all of you know that they transgender people, they may or may not take hormone therapy. Hormone therapy is if a trans man is taking hormone therapy, he takes hormone therapy in order to achieve masculine effects. And if a trans women, they take hormone therapy in order to achieve feminine effects. This hormone therapy has a lot of side effects, like it can increase the risk of certain cancers, like especially breast cancer, heart health. It can affect heart health, like it can cause heart attack. And also smoking is also common among these transgender people, and it also increases the risk of stroke and heart attack among transgender people. And also STDs, the sexually transmitted diseases like syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV/AIDS is also common among transgenders. Why? Because they end up having a sexual relationship with many partners. They might not know they might not know about practicing safe sex, or they are not aware of it, and this can lead to the transmission of sexually transmitted infections. Now I'm going to play a video, and here it's transgender people, they share their experiences on how they were treated when they went to the hospital. I want you all to watch it. Is the audio, can you hear the audio? Is it audible?
Yes, Jesse, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
My name is Leo Sell, and my pronouns are they, them, their.
My name is Sophia Stanford, pronouns she, her.
I'm Gray, and my preferred pronouns are he, him.
Robin Kanawar-Haza, and I use feminine pronouns, so she, her, hers.
My name is Luke Jude, and I prefer he, him pronouns.
My name is Chloe Flora. My preferred pronouns are she or they.
"99% of the time when I go to the doctor, I'm anxious and nervous.
Even though insurance and driver's license and everything says female, you really don't know what to expect.
Yeah, I don't think I know any trans person that went through the medical system and had a nice time with it. Not in this country.
I haven't gone to the dentist in 4 or 5 years because It's just such an uncomfortable experience.
I know people who, if they sprain their ankle, will just wrap it up and put some ice on it rather than going to the ER and having an x-ray done because it's just not worth the stress.
I've had a history of urinary tract infections. It was pretty commonplace for me. And I went to the urgent care, and the physician on staff that I was dealing with kept telling me over and over how atypical it was for a man to be having a series of urinary tract infections. I tried to interrupt him and say, I understand, I've been through a gender transition, so my anatomy is probably not what you expect it to be. And he kept stopping me. He wouldn't let me complete and assuring me that he did understand. And he said, I think I would like to take a look. So I pulled down my pants, and it wasn't at all what he expected. And he was immediately apologetic. He said, oh, you don't have, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. I said, I know, we tried to tell you.
I initially knew I identified and felt female around 5 years old when this was caught out by my family member who was the director of mental health for the state that I lived in. Essentially required forced correction, like invasive hypnotherapy, corrective assignment and orientation to gender roles, other things to help masculinize and or reprogram the viewpoint of the world to the child. If I had to be this way, I'm going to walk in front of a car and I'm going to reset it and try over. That's what I thought when I was 6.
I had a bunch of different symptoms tied to sleep, tied to appetite, weight gain, mood, that had sort of increased in severity over a year. And one of the things that my doctor told me to do was check myself into a hospital next time I had my round of symptoms. So I checked into a hospital, and even just within the check-in process, I was misgendered. I finally spoke to the doctor, and he came in and was speaking to me as if I was a 13-year-old girl. And all of my symptoms were surrounding hormones. And when I started talking about hormones, this doctor in the hospital actually looked at me and said, oh, what do hormones do? I didn't think hormones did anything. And he actually checked me out of the hospital. He said, I think that you're just bleeding a lot right now. Fast forward 3 days later from this hospital visit, and I was diagnosed with invasive hormonal breast cancer that tested 99% positive for estrogen. And I think that if I had had the same list of symptoms, but was a cisgendered man, I would have been treated completely differently.
So in general, I've been blessed with a good primary care physician and an endocrinology doctor, but I was seeing a specialist for a different medical problem, and my records and everything all said female. I have everything changed. And the guy looked at it, he went through all of those steps, and then said, so do you dress full-time as a woman? And I was stunned. It's like, do you dress full-time as a man? Yes, I'm a woman. I am a woman of transgender experience. And of course, it's just like any other woman in your office.
The biggest horror story that I had was going to the pharmacy to pick up my first testosterone prescription. I was nerve-wracked already because it's like such an emotional thing to like finally get that golden ticket. It ends up being like $1. So it's just the syringes. There's no medicine. 4 people later, in about 20 minutes, they finally look it up in the computer and they're like, oh yeah, oops. Throughout this entire process, I have to say my legal name, which isn't the name that I go by, out loud to the entire store. And I'm basically outing myself to everyone around me. And that's not wanting to hide, that's just about trying to stay safe. Like, some people hear that and they might follow me to my car and bash my head in.
During one physical therapy appointment, I had one of the therapists misgendered me to an entire room of people, both other physical therapists and other clients. He never looked me in the eye again. He never talked about it, he never apologized. It was just this weight. And especially me as a trans woman, I get misgendered all the time. Like, it's something I deal with on a near daily basis. So to have that happen in a medical setting, something where I can opt out of, even though it might not be the healthiest thing, I will. I'd rather protect my own sense of mental health.
Oh, it is very sad that the doctors, who have to provide health care, who have to, who knows the doctors who know what exactly happens in the body, who have studied about it, they discriminating these people are, it is very sad, so with this, my presentation is coming to an end. I hope you all understood. If you have any questions, please bring it up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jesse, for that wonderful presentation.